Hey guys, welcome to Pet Rambles. I'm Pet and today I'm going to ramble about the books that I plan to read in 2025. I have a list here and I'm going to go real fast over it. I'm going to try not to get too much into too many details because I do plan this over the course of this year to make some kind of review videos about books or deep dives. I'm not sure how to call them. I'm not sure yet how to approach it, mostly because sometimes I want to go into details about the book to say what I liked and what I didn't like. So it's a video that you are going to watch after you have read the book yourself. So just to hear another opinion. But sometimes I did manage with the first video that I planned to make to create kind of like a spoiler-free review and to tell you why I find this book enjoyable. But anyway, until then, we will see. We will see. So one of my targets for this year is to read shorter books, maybe books that are not part of a series, and maybe to challenge myself to read things out of my genre or things that I normally read. I normally read fantasy, but it's kind of like those trilogies, books that are thick or science fiction. I'm reading those genres because I want to get away to hear a story, to be enticed in another world, right? I also like to read books about design or game design in particular. An occasional self-help book or things about the mind or other things that I like to learn things. But one thing that I do like to read a lot, it's about history. As you can see behind me, I have history and world art history and things like that. So I also like to read those. But I'm going to try to challenge myself to read other things. Like for example, Akotar, which I've read 60% of it and then I stopped. But I think I will make a video about it. Because I do have some interesting takes, because I gave myself the opportunity to read something and then now I've drawn all the conclusions about things in life. So this is why I think it's important to challenge yourself sometimes. And also regarding history, I haven't read too much about the 1700s, 1800s, age of explorations, ships, navigation and things like that. And I'm a bit in pirates. I was never into pirates, but then I read last year The Wager, which I enjoyed a lot. And I was like, okay, let's deep dive a little bit more into this. Another thing that I've done at the end of last year is to kind of curate my want to read list on Goodreads, because I had like 300 books there and I don't even know why I've added some of those. Like at some point, oh, this is interesting, and I clicked a button and now that whole list became pointless, mostly because I'm never going to go through that book, because there will always going to be constant new books that are going to draw your attention and so on and so on. So I was like, I'm going to curate the list. I haven't deleted everything, but again, there are books there who I don't even know why I wanted to read them in the first place. And if it's been years, if I haven't reached to read them, I don't care about them. And if I will care about them, they will come back into my life and the universe will tell me to read this book or something like that. So anyway, I will start with a book that I found out about 1 hour ago. It's called The Adventures of Amina Al-Sirafi. I'm not sure how to pronounce it. I love the cover of this book. Say what you want. You don't judge a book by its cover, but a cover is important because it can draw your attention. It's about a captain of a ship that has to do one last run, something like that. And I found it interesting. I haven't deep dived to see if it's really something that I will enjoy trying it out, or I haven't bought it yet or anything like that. But this is why I kind of wanted to draw a parallel with it. So I've started with that. The first book that I want to read, it's the first on the list, and I'm actually at the third book already, and they are not thin books. When I would finish this book, I would have read already 1,300 and something pages, so I went all in into these books. There are 7 books in the series. It's called Dungeon Crawler Carl. I absolutely love the series. I'm not going to go into details because I am preparing to do a proper review, a spoiler-free review actually. I have to see when I will record that, maybe later in the week. I'm still stressing out how to approach a book review or a book. I don't want it to be called review. I would just want to be like a guy who's telling you about a book that you might enjoy, and I will tell you why I enjoy it and so on. Then I kind of want to read Murderbot Diaries. I already read the first one. They are very thin. Like the first one had already had 170 pages, so you can go pretty fast through them. I was a bit intrigued, mostly because it was action-packed. The author doesn't spend time to do world building, because there is no time to do world building because the books are 13, right? Which I kind of liked. It was action-packed. It is science fiction, and it is about a murder bot. He's calling himself a murder bot, but it's kind of like this robot, but it's not like a robot with screws. It's a robot who's more bionic, like he has regenerative tissues and things like that. And there are corporations and people do things, and he's trying to escape. And I don't want to spoil anything, but it was an interesting piece, and I do want to read more about it. Then, In the Name of the Wind, King Killer Chronicle. My friend Kashma recommended me that book. He said it's a mixture of Lord of the Rings and Harry Potter with magic and things like that, and I saw that the book is very, 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 very well reviewed. I already got the Kindle and the audiobook for it, and I'm not sure if I will try it next. I do need to feel that I need to break away right now and read something that's shorter, but this is pretty high on my to-read list. Then I want to read The Way of Kings from the Stormlight Archive by Brandon Sanderson. This is what I wanted to read last year, but I took a break. I took a think, and I read Mistborn, which I loved. So yeah, The Way of Kings, I want to start with the series. It's a very thick book. I want to see if I enjoy the world building and so on, and if I do, I will continue to read the rest, but I do want to read at least the first one. Speaking with that, The Well of Ascension from the Mistborn series. Like, I enjoyed the first book. The first book has a resolution, a conclusion, but I still want to read more in that universe, so I will read the second and the third books, the third book from the Mistborn universe. Then, Night Watch by Terry Pratchett. I read Terry Pratchett a long time ago. I found out about him like 20 years ago, before he died, but I'm not a native English speaker, as you can tell, and it's a bit, his English is very English, like he uses words that I don't know, and then he uses words for words I don't know in Romania, because I don't interact with, I don't know, some snippets in the manual. So it was very hard to read it on paper, because I was reading it, but I don't understand many things. And then I discovered, hey, I can buy Terry Pratchett on Kindle, and on Kindle you can tap, and then it will tell you what that word means, and that helped me a lot. I've read a couple of books which I like them so much that I've ordered them physical from UK. I have them in my collection on top, you can't see them. And I kind of want to entertain myself. Not all his books are that engaging. The first two, for example, are so-so. The first one I finished, the second one I got bored and I stopped. I do enjoy Mort. That was a fantastic series. I only read the first one, but I wanted to focus 13 years ago when I started with Terry Pratchett, more than that. I wanted to, let's focus on the City Watch series. So I've read Guards, the first one, and then I kind of put Night Watch on the list, which is also part of that series, because this book keeps coming into top. I googled top Terry Pratchett books, and I watched a lot of tops, and this one is pretty high up. It's also a pretty new one. It came out in 2002, and I got the audiobook, and I will listen and read at the same time even if it's not, I won't read them in order. You don't have to read them in order, but sometimes it helps, but you don't have to read them in order. So yeah, Terry Pratchett, Night Watch. Then Tron, Star Wars, Timothy Zahn. I like Timothy Zahn a lot. I'm the type of person who likes books in general, and I don't put focus on authors. However, when I first discovered Timothy Zahn in 2006, I got so hooked on some of his books that, as I've said, I generally read when I'm going to bed, and sometimes I'm tired and I only read like 10 pages, in the past at least. But back then I was like so curious what's going to happen, as that I was going into another room just to be, by myself and read, because I was so curious, what's going to happen. And then I read interviews with him, and I was intrigued by how he's looking like, okay, we have this faction and then this faction. He's like chess pieces. How is this faction going to do the things? And then he's going to turn around the chess. It's like you are playing chess by himself. He was thinking, okay, how is this faction going to, how are the rebels or the empire going to respond to this? It was always intrigued by that. And I kind of missed reading books in the Star Wars universe. I've read 10, 15 books in that Star Wars universe, but ever since Disney, Star Wars is absolute shit, and it pains me because I enjoy being part of a lore, of a universe. I don't play World of Warcraft anymore, so I'm not reading World of Warcraft books anymore. Not that they weren't that exciting. which is why, by the way, last year I started to read Warhammer, but we will get there. But I miss, being excited by Star Wars, and Tron, it's a character that Timothy Zahn created, and people said that those books are good. So I will. There are like 3, and then another 3. I will start with the first one to see if I like it. If I like it, I will continue. So Tron by Timothy Zahn, because I miss reading Star Wars. Then Gazgul Traka, actually have it in the other room on paper. As I said, as I've just said, I started to go into the Warhammer universe and actually have the Orcs codex here, because I miss being part of a world, of a lore, of something, reading things like that. And I've read War Boss, which I do have to make a video about because it was incredibly funny. And because I like orcs, I also look a bit like one. Gazgul Traka is another book that's orc related. Then the Big Daka also, this book, Gazgul Traka, I don't know who wrote it, I don't remember, I haven't wrote it here, but the Big Daka is the same author, Mike Brooks, I believe, who wrote War Boss, which I enjoyed a lot. So I kind of have a couple of Mike Brooks books on the list. The Big Daka, it's about orcs, but then we also have The Lion, Sons of the Forest. So I'm curious to read about the author, how he's going to write when it's not related to orcs, if it makes sense. So yeah, not only that, but the audiobooks like War Boss has being so well narrated by Henry Myers that I want to listen to more Henry Myers because he's doing the orc voices so well, and the rest of the voices that he has to do. Then I do have here The Well of Ascension, part of the Mistborn series. I will only read the second. If I enjoy the second, I will read the third one. I don't want to force myself to read things and so on, even that I heard someone that the second one is a little bit so-ish, but the third one is better again. I don't know, something like that. But anyway, I'm not committing to trilogies anymore. Like, they have time, they can wait. Then, Reaperman, Men at Mars, and Small Gods, also by Terry Pratchett. It's kind of like a list of me. I do have those also in audiobook form. Reaperman is the second book from the Death series. I really enjoyed Mort, which is the first one. I found it really funny and really interesting setting. And I really like this concept that Death has kind of like a midlife crisis mode. I mean, he doesn't have a mid, right? Because he doesn't have a life, but he's kind of having these issues, and he's trying to get away to do things. And in Mort, he's trying to get an apprentice, and the apprentice has to do the desk job, and he's doing stuff, and then bad things are happening. So this is why Men at Arms is the second book in the City Watch series after Guards. So I want to continue with that. And then when I was googling what are Terry Pratchett good books and so on, one thing that kept coming out, it's Small Gods, and it is a little bit not part of a series, if I'm saying correctly. So it's kind of independent. It's part of the Discworld universe, like all those books are part of the Discworld universe, but this is inside that. Anyway, so I will be curious to see how that will happen. Then I plan to read The Wolf and Cub. It's a manga from the 70s. It's about Ronin in the Edo area who's traveling with a cub, which is his kid. He's like 2 or 3 years old. I did talk a bit more about the series in the video because I finished the first volume. I've started the series. The guy in Cărturești told me something about, it's 3 volumes. And I was like, it's not a long manga. I will maybe commit to this. So I bought the first one and I looked online and it's thick. I actually have it down here. I'm not sure if I will find it. I don't want to pull anything else. Anyway, and then I looked at home and there were like 13 or 12 volumes, right? And each one is thick like this, but it's a short book, but it's thick like this. So I already bought the second one. I do want to read that, and if I like that one, I will maybe buy the third one, and so on and so on. So Lone Wolf and Cub. Then I was browsing Goodreads at some point, I think, or maybe it was TikTok. The Faithful Executioner. That was because history, and I want to read other things that are diverse. This is a book about an executioner in 1600s in Germany, in Hamburg, I believe, something like that. And it's kind of like his journal, and the author of the book found this journal somewhere, and then he extracted it and then got more information, and he wrote the book. And I was intrigued, like, interesting concept. I'm a bit intrigued, so let's buy it and read it. Rogue Squadron, Star Wars. Again, I was looking like what cool books in Star Wars universe there are. Because I found this series before. Rogue Squadron, it's not canon anymore, so it's part of the legends, but people have been saying good things, so it's a bit down the list, which is why I'm only mentioning it now. So I'm not sure if I will start to read it, but it's kind of like there on the list. Then I wrote here Lost Stars in Star Wars. Also, if you are to read, to Google top Star Wars books and so on, this Lost Stars keeps popping up, but I'm a bit skeptic about it. My friend Adi, who also reads Star Wars, and we've been chatting about Star Wars books for 20 something years, gave it 3 out of 5. And I asked him why. He said, you will see. And then I did read a couple of reviews, and I think I might get triggered because it might be something not for me, because it is some kind of there are some kind of romances there, and I'm the type of guy that don't enjoy romance books or things like that. So I'm not sure how it will be. I will try it out and see how it is. Then The Naked Sun by Asimov. It's down the list, but last year I bought the book in Romanian hardcover. I already read this book. I don't reread books generally, but I've read The Naked Sun in the 10th grade, sometimes in 2003, so more than 20 years ago. And I was thinking like, maybe I should read it again. It's a classic science fiction. It's science fiction, but it's science fiction written in the 50s, right? By Asimov or 60s. I don't remember when this book came out. I think it was 57 or something like that. Even that it's with robots and it's trying to be science fiction, it's more of a detective book actually, from what I remember back then. Because there had been a murder, but who has done the murder? Because according to the 3 laws of robotics, that robot can't be the one who is doing the murder. And there is an entire thing there. So this is why I was thinking like, how am I going to enjoy this book, if I'm going to enjoy this book right now? Because if you are to watch the top science fiction, Asimov is always popping up, but Asimov has been top in the 60s. He's innovated in the science fiction genre, but if you are to read science fiction right now, it's a little bit like so-so. I actually had the Foundation series 3 books. There are more books, but I sold them. I've done my thing, okay, but I'm not that. I've read iRobot. It was like, okay, interesting concept for the 50s, but right now it's so-so, let's say. So I'm not sure how I will, when I will revisit this series, how it will be. Then Pluto, like I've said in the video of the books that I've read last year, I've enjoyed the first book a lot. The second and the third I've read, they are okay, 4 stars out of 5. I already purchased the 4th number and the 5th number, and if I am to commit, I will have to buy the 6th, 7th, and 8th volume to complete the series. So this is why I'm planning to read Pluto as a manga before. It might be, the Lone Wolf and Cub and Pluto might be my manga for this year, and then done with it, not buying too many things anymore. I'm trying this year to also not buy too many things and just enjoy the things that I already have, which I haven't read. I have books that I haven't read. Then I wrote The Lonesome Dove Western. It's kind of like, I'm not sure if I'm to read it. Maybe you guys can recommend me something. I've never done too much research on Western in general. When I say Western, the 1900s in early America, the discovery, the gold rush. I played Red Dead Redemption 1 and 2, and I liked them a lot. And I was like, this is an interesting area in the history of humankind, the history of America. I want to read more in that area. And this Lonesome Dove keeps coming up in tops. I'm not sure if I'm going to read it, but it's on the list just to remind me that, hey, Westerns, try to look for something in that area, and maybe you guys can help me out. Then, which is right here, this is the one. I actually bought this to 2020, 2021 when it came out, and I saw it from Kyrgyzstan, however you pronounce it. And I like the video, I like the art. I have a couple of posters in my house. I was like, oh, I will buy it. And then the book arrived, and I'm like, I was expecting it. I haven't read what it was exactly. I knew it was about the immune system of our bodies. I was expecting some kind of, not art book, but a book with illustration, but it's an actual book with some illustrations, and I haven't read it yet. So I was like, I bought it, let's read it at least, and then sell it or keep it in the collection. And the last one, it's called Din Vremea lui Tudor by Radu Oltean. Again, history. about Romania, about Wallachia, about how it was when Tudor was around. And I already started to read it. It's an interesting read because Radu Oltean, he's also a painter and he is drawing nice illustrations, but also he's doing research, a lot of research about whatever he's writing on. And 1800s for Wallachia has been rough after, the Ottomans started to have problems maintaining everything, having their own wars with the Serbians or with Russia and then with us. So they kind of didn't have money to sustain, because they had to kind of maintain Wallachia a little bit. So yeah, it's an interesting way on how people, they were living there. So yeah, I will have to finish it before I will, get more into details and so on. But yeah, it's history and I like reading history. And this is kind of it. This is the list that I have right now. Going to throw the paper there. And yeah, as I've said, I think one thing that I'm kind of learning, I'm getting older and older, we do have this tendency to get excited by a lot of stuff. A lot of stuff are being thrown our way. Music, movies, TV shows, video games. If you're a gamer, you know how it is to have a big library of games that you don't have time to play, and then you're moving to the next game, and then just like that you have tons of games that you paid for and you still haven't touched them, right? It's a little bit frustrating. At least for me, it's starting to get a little bit frustrating because I keep consumerism, I keep spending, and then I'm not enjoying them to a point where I'm thinking like, I've been joking in the past that my main passion is to actually buy things and not, my books. My passion is not those books you see behind me. Is buying the books. My books are not my vinyl records. It's buying vinyl records. I'm joking a little bit, but there is a thing there. I've heard people say that reading books and buying books are two different hobbies, which is true on a lot of aspects. So this is what I'm trying to do this year, trying to be a little bit more smart with my money, especially since I do want to buy more expensive cat food. So this little motherfucker is going to eat. I think I will send him to do the next video maybe. So yeah, he's Bober, also called Bobere, also called Bobr. He kind of knows his name, as you can see. Also known as Pecorino. Why? Because Boberino, Pecorino. Anyway, he's a nice little fella that I got this year. You are now being immortalized in this video. And look, this boy is actually, look how long he is. He's long, right? He's not a chonker, he's long boy. He's a bit frustrated with me right now, as you can see. But anyway, thank you guys for watching this video of the books, of the books that I'm planning to read this year. Hold me accountable at the end of the year. Ask me what books have I read from this list, and we will see how things are going to be. So yeah, thank you guys for watching. See you soon. Goodbye.